Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie. And in this video, I'm going to look at the weekend of January the 20th and 21st, 2024. Now, my topic for today is going to be Princess Catherine, Princess of Wales, who is in hospital, and she is apparently I think she has had abdominal surgery. So I just want to look at what's going on. We don't know what exactly the surgery was. We do know that she's going to be in hospital, I believe, for a couple of weeks. So I want to consider what's happening in her chart. Now, I do understand that there may be criticism from two groups of people watching this. One group of people might feel that perhaps it's the wrong thing to do. I mean, the poor woman is in hospital. She wants her privacy. And does she really want some astrologer talking about what's going on in her horoscope when she's sort of so vulnerable and getting all this attention and all of this kind of thing? Well, I mean, to be honest, she doesn't care, does she? She's not going to watch this YouTube video. Besides, I don't plan on being disrespectful. I don't plan on criticizing her. The other criticism might be that who cares if she's a royal? We've had enough of royals. We don't want to know about their lives. Just through, the accident of her husband's birth, she's getting all this attention. Who cares? Well, I suppose I could, for example, talk about, I don't know, some woman who lives down the road who's just had some abdominal surgery, and I happen to have her chart, and you're going to be really interested, aren't you, in such a person? Probably not. Princess Catherine is a well-known public figure, and so a lot of people can relate to her. People know who she is, and we know her time of birth. We know her date of birth, yes, we are looking at her because she's a royal, but at the same time, we are looking at a human being who is going to hospital or is in hospital, having abdominal surgery or recovering from abdominal surgery. So what might we see astrologically when someone is in hospital with abdominal surgery? So in a way, what we're doing here is we're just looking at an example chart, and that's maybe useful. If we look at another chart with something similar going on in it, we might get some pointers about what the signs of abdominal surgery could be. So overall, I don't apologize for looking at Princess Catherine's chart. I do think it's a useful exercise. And by the way, I don't just want to look at her chart. I want to look at her husband's chart, Prince William. How does he feel? His wife's in hospital. How are the transits? Anything interesting? I also want to look at her oldest son's chart, Prince George. His mother's going to hospital, is in hospital. What's going on in his life? Are there any interesting transits there? I think there might be. So that's what I want to look at. That's my topic for this video for this weekend. But before I do that, I do want to look at the astrology for the weekend of January the 20th and 21st, 2024. So top right. That, of course, is Princess Catherine. I got into trouble last time I talked about her. I sort of called her Kate and whatever, and I did get a commenter saying, well, you've got to be more respectful, and I accept that. So I won't call her Kate. I will call her Princess Catherine, or Catherine. I think that's okay. As far as my own views on the monarchy, I'm completely ambivalent. I don't have any particular negative impressions, though, on Princess Catherine. I don't really have any views on her. Obviously, I would wish her a speedy recovery. Anyway, I thought I'd say that. So, what's happening this weekend? Well, on Saturday, the moon goes into Gemini. To be precise, it goes into Gemini London time at 1:58 p.m. And very soon after, at 2:07 p.m., the sun goes into the sun goes into Aquarius. So moon goes into Gemini just before 2 in the afternoon London time. Sun goes into Aquarius just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon London time. So if you're in London, Western Europe, then early afternoon, you're going to see this big change with the sun and the moon moving out of earth signs into air signs. Now, if you're in New York, the East Coast, the American East Coast, the change will happen at 9 in the morning, approximately. If you're on the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington State, then it'll be at 6 in the morning. So in the Americas, pretty much the whole of Saturday does have the moon in Gemini and the sun in Aquarius. If, on the other hand, you are in Australia or New Zealand, then that's going to be something that happens early on Sunday. So to an extent, it kind of depends where you are. So with the moon going into Gemini, sun going into Aquarius, we feel a sudden change. I mean, it is quite a big change, really, because, we have had a time when we've had, all these two planets, the sun and the moon, in earth signs. Earth signs are sort of about grounding and stability and making sure that our finances are in good order, and just in general, people looking at material details. And then you get this sudden change. Suddenly you get Earth switching to air. The sun and the moon both being in air signs. There's more flexibility. There's more scope for talking. There's more scope for being, intellectually flexible. We can start talking about our ideas. We might find that it's just easier to get on with people. We don't have to worry quite so much about appearances, quite so much about perhaps even emotions. We can tell people what we feel, we can tell people what we think, because, air signs are about thinking and not feeling. And so, there's more air, there's more room to breathe this weekend. And, when the sun and the moon move respectively into Gemini and Aquarius. So, moon moving into Gemini, sun moving into Aquarius. Now, it's not entirely light, because there is a conjunction between the Sun and Pluto on Saturday. In fact, we were feeling it on Friday, yesterday. We were certainly feeling the Sun-Pluto conjunction getting closer and closer, but Saturday it's here. Sun conjunct Pluto. Now, I've just talked about the Sun and the Moon in moving into air signs, and suggesting that might sort of lighten things up. It might, but we can't escape the fact that the Sun is conjunct Pluto on Saturday. Now, it's not an unusual aspect. It happens once a year. And so with Sun conjunct Pluto, there is going to be a certain emphasis on power. We need to perhaps consider who is holding the power, and how are they using that power. Though, as I said yesterday, some people might just feel that they can't deal with it, that just the world is just too heavy, and they might want to retreat. Pluto, is a sort of heavy energy. So how do we deal with the situation? Well, you could say that the moon is, the moon moving into Gemini, in a natal chart, in a person with moon in Gemini, very often the person talks as a way of avoiding complicated issues. Moon in Gemini can just talk. It just comes naturally. And so, many of us, we're aware that there's heavy stuff going on in the background. Heavy emotions, heavy events, people with strong opinions. We are aware of that, but we want to kind of break the tension. And perhaps the best way of breaking the tension this weekend, is just to talk. We talk, other people talk back. It may not even be that we're talking about anything particularly useful. It's just the fact we're having a conversation. And with conversation just breaks the tension up. So that may be one way of dealing with the weekend, and dealing with some of the tensions that might be building up over the weekend. But as I said, Moon is in Gemini. Moon in Gemini doesn't like to take things too seriously. Moon in Gemini tends to want to skirt over the surface of things. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but I suppose if you take the view that things are too heavy, with this Sun conjunct Pluto, that might be the best way of dealing with the problem. So on Sunday, Pluto actually moves into Aquarius. Now, Pluto is an outer planet. Does it necessarily mean we're going to immediately feel something? Not necessarily. It is a transpersonal planet. It works its magic in a very subtle kind of way. So we might not actually feel Pluto going into Aquarius straight away. But as time progresses, we will start to feel it more and more. It's about some of our concerns. There are concerns with Pluto going into Aquarius. We are concerned that, for example, we have control, that we're not being moved by, controlled by something else, and that is a Pluto. That is a Pluto and Aquarius theme, as I've already discussed. Aquarius is a sign that's ruled by Saturn, but Aquarius is a positive sign. It's a time when we need to think about how other people and governments and groups may be trying to use active measures to control people, and we have to ask ourselves whether we really want to be controlled, or is it a time when we need to assert our freedom? So that is very much something to think about. Now, over the weekend, some of us might sort of be in the mood for being quite assertive, for taking initiatives. That might seem a good idea because Mars is in Capricorn. Mars is in its exaltation. But Mars is aspecting the Sun Neptune and the Neptune Pluto midpoint. So that is indicating that when we try to assert ourselves, we might find that our energy just gets scattered all over the place. And we find it quite difficult to apply ourselves because there's other things going on. And, we might feel that there's, heavy stuff in the background that, we can't quite manage. And this might have a negative impact. So be careful how you assert yourself. You might think you've got enough power to see it through, but maybe you haven't. Another thing to point out is that Venus is on the Jupiter-Uranus midpoint. It's aspecting the Jupiter-Uranus midpoint. So if Venus is aspecting the Jupiter-Uranus midpoint, some of us might feel that in terms of our social life and the people around us, we want our freedom. So if anyone is holding us back, and it's preventing us doing what we want, then I don't think we will tolerate the situation. We will, I think, take active measures to free ourselves from whatever is trying to hold us back. So that's something you have to be aware of. And also, are you trying to hold on to someone else's freedom? Are you holding someone back? Are you preventing them doing what they want to do? Because if you are, then over the weekend you might see evidence of perhaps a rebellion. So that is certainly something that needs to be watched for. So that's the broad picture this weekend. The main event, okay, it could be Pluto going into Aquarius, but we shouldn't necessarily expect to see immediate results from Pluto entering Aquarius. It may be more important in the short term that the Sun is going into Gemini and the Moon is going into Gemini and the Sun is going into Aquarius pretty much at the same time. A really sudden change, and I think that that change for many of us should set us up for quite a good weekend when we can not take the world too heavily, just relax and be ourselves, and good conversation, play with ideas. If we can do that, I think that might be a good use for the weekend. Okay, so I've now looked at the general picture for the weekend, what the main stuff going on astrologically. So what I want to do now is do forecasts for the 12 signs for the weekend, which is for the weekend of January the 20th and 21st, 2024. So these are my forecasts. Here we go. Aries, you're feeling, I think, a little bit better. I mean, I think recently you have been sort of sidetracked by stuff that you're not really very interested in. Aries tend to be quite sort of free and easy when it comes to money. They don't want to get tied up with heavy financial responsibilities. They don't want to have to spend all their time worrying about who owes what, making sure that everything balances. They do find that a bit tedious. And now that the moon is moving out of Taurus into Gemini, I think you may feel a sort of sense of freedom. You can finally be yourself again. And I think, you should find over the weekend that you can really start to express yourself in, in a normal Aries kind of way, just saying what you think and not having to worry what kind of words you're using. Let the words just flow, and just enjoy communicating. And you may actually have a sudden impulse to go and visit someone over the weekend. And you're just going to want to do it. And that's probably fine. Though, I think you've got to give some warning. You can't just turn up on someone's doorstep, uninvited, unannounced. So, don't be too impulsive in your travel plans. But travel, short distance travel, is a good way for Aries to express itself, and get things out into the open. Now, as far as how you assert yourself, you are an Aries. Mars is your ruling planet. It's very important for you to be able to assert yourself, for you to be able to, for you to be able to tell the world what's on your mind, and just go for it. But there is some danger that this weekend your energy just gets put in the wrong direction. Yeah, sure, you want to make things happen. You want to be assertive, but when you try to be assertive, you might find that you are almost like sort of tilting at windmills, isn't that right? Chasing things which are just a mirage. So you have to think about what you're doing. You can't just throw your energy into some random target. You've got to think it through, because there is a danger that you start chasing things which are just plain fantasies, dreams, and is ultimately a complete waste of time. Now, I should mention the fact that Pluto is going into Aquarius this weekend. I think with Pluto in Aquarius, if it means anything to you, Aries, I think it might mean, firstly, that there might be a change in some of your friendships. You may decide that you want to start mixing with one group of people and perhaps distancing yourself from another group of people. So there might be a transformation in terms of your friends. There might be a very fast turnover. One set of friends might disappear. Another set of friends might move onto the scene. And also, you may be thinking very hard about your hopes and wishes for the future. What you hoped and wished for, say, last week, may not be the same as what you hoped and wished for next week. So open yourself up to the possibility that there can be some kind of transformation, both in terms of your social life and in terms of, actually, Aries, what you want. Taurus. It's a weekend when you are going to value your space and your freedom. No doubt about that at all. You're going to want to be free to assert yourself how you like, when you like. That I think is going to be really important. But at the same time, you are aware that freedom of action does have a price tag. Um, if you want to do something, if you want to be free, well, ideally, that you might have to spend some money. And so I think you're going to be quite aware of the money you don't have, the money you want, and the money you do have. Um, to the point where you might starting to think about it a lot, just thinking about money. But of course, thinking about money is in itself of no value. It's very little value, because thinking about money doesn't actually get you money. Indeed, it could be argued that thinking about money actually prevents you making money, getting the money you want. Reason being, because you're putting so much energy into imagining money that there's actually no space in your aura for new money to come in. You've already got the money in your imagination, in your hopes and your wishes and your fantasies. And so because you've already got the money, you're not going to get any more. So Taurus, I would really bear that in mind. And at the same time, Taurus, when you look at your social life, you may come to the conclusion that that certain people aren't really worth the effort. That maybe you should move on. And I think there is going to be, perhaps this weekend, a certain sense of relief that you got out of a particular situation, a situation that you didn't really want to get involved in. It was complicated, it was a headache, and this weekend you can free yourself from that. And I think you will feel a great sense of relief about that. Now, I should say something about Pluto going into Aquarius. So Pluto going into Aquarius could be a sense that something is changing in terms of perhaps work, career, your whole direction in life. And it's big. It's big, but it's perhaps not immediate. You can see the change starting. You can see it on the horizon, but it's not there yet. And it may take some time. I mean, it may even take until next year, but you can see it. You can see it slowly but surely coming your way. Not just coming your way, but actually coming everyone's way. You mustn't take it personally. This is, in many respects, something that has a collective dimension. So Taurus, that's a note for the future, but just be aware of it. So in terms of your working life, your career, everything else, things can't go on forever in the way they have been going on. And so, you can slowly but surely make preparations. You don't have to be in a hurry, because it's probably the case that things are not really going to happen until the end of the year. Gemini, the moon is in your star sign. Depends where you are, but if you're in London, the moon moved into your star sign early afternoon on Saturday. Same if you're in London, if you're in Paris, Berlin. If you're in the Americas, the moon would have gone into your star sign earlier in the day. So, with moon in Gemini, you are becoming more verbal. You don't have to hold on to things so tightly. You don't have to keep things secret to such a great extent. In most cases, you can be open and honest about the way you feel. If you've got something to say, you can say it, and at the same time, You can seek out variety. Gemini as a sign, it likes variety. Ideally, Gemini likes to do two things at once. Just one thing, it just gets a bit boring. But maybe there are just Gemini. Gemini, there are maybe a couple of things you can do simultaneously, and somehow you can actually do a great job there. So that's certainly something to be excited about. But I don't think this weekend you should necessarily expect to have achieved anything concrete or tangible. Yes, the moon is going through your star sign, but that's about the way you feel, the way you are, the way you pick up on your environment, the way you pick up the sort of psychic flow in which you're in. But to be able to actually do anything concrete, well, that's not going to happen, I don't think, this weekend. It's just a kind of a good experience. There's a feeling that things are getting more exciting, but yeah, you just do need to take a longer term perspective. Now, as I go through the signs, I'm sort of mentioning the fact that Pluto has changed signs this weekend. The Pluto moves into Aquarius. So, what does that mean for Gemini? I think Gemini, from a long-term perspective, from the end of the year onwards, because Pluto is a long-term planet. It's not just about a sort of one-day wonder. Pluto goes into Aquarius. We say something about it. We just move on, forget about Pluto. No, it's something from a longer-term perspective, and I think Gemini, you may need to accept that some of your views, some of your opinions, some of your ideas are completely out of date. They need to be changed, even transformed. So be open to that change. How long have you had your ideas about the way the world should be organized? Perhaps you've had them for too long, and you actually need some kind of transformation. And I think Pluto will provide it. And so Pluto is going to show you a new way of looking at the world, a way of looking at the world which actually could be quite distressing at first sight, because we all hate things that are new. We get used to being in our particular space, and then suddenly we're shown something different and we freak out. But no, it's not a time to freak out. It's just an acceptance that you need to spread your wings, and you need to start getting a broader perspective on the world around you. And in this process, you can create a fortunate transformation. Cancer. Well, Cancer, recently things have looked good for you. It has really felt that things were moving. But I'm thinking over the weekend, you may feel that things are slowing down, that you don't have quite as much enthusiasm as you did before. You now want to take things slowly, and I think it's quite possible that you may start to really enjoy your own company. You don't have to be with other people. It really is unnecessary. So perhaps you need to make some effort this weekend to create the right environment for yourself. An environment which is safe. You don't have to be a complete hermit, but you do need space. That is really important. The space to do your own thing. The space not to have to worry what other people are thinking and feeling, because people's thoughts and feelings can be quite overwhelming. You pick up on them emotionally. You're trying to work out what's going on, and it's it can be hard work. So yes, I mean, I think that is something to bear in mind. Now, Pluto changes sign this weekend. Now, Pluto has been on and off moving through Capricorn, your seventh house, for quite a long time. Yes, Pluto has sort of earlier in the year, it did go into Aquarius, but then it went back into Capricorn. Now it's leaving Capricorn, going into Aquarius. For a couple of months later in the year, the moon will actually return to Capricorn. But what you experienced with Pluto in Capricorn, in a very broad sense, is a sort of an awareness that relationships can be quite heavy and really can't be trivialized. And I think that has, that's perhaps been one of the lessons of the last decade for Cancerians, and decade and more. And so perhaps now you have, you've learnt your lesson. And as Pluto moves out of Capricorn into Aquarius, you start to see things sort of differently. You still understand the importance and power of relationships, but you're now starting to think and realize that that people's emotions, the depth of people's emotions, can be transforming for better or for worse. And you may be thinking about your own feelings, and how with your feelings you can change everything. Your feelings are, in a way, Cancer, very your special weapon or your superpower or whatever. You can use your feelings to create, to create real drama and to create transformation. I mean, how does that happen? Well, part of it is the fact that at an emotional level, I think you understand what makes other people tick. I mean, that's a Cancerian trait, and that trait is especially strong now. And so if you know what makes other people tick, then you have a pretty good idea what kind of impact your actions are going to have. And so you can sort of fine-tune your strategy and work out exactly how to get what you want by manipulating other people's emotions. And I know one shouldn't be manipulative, so you have to think about that. Is it the right thing to be manipulative? Is it appropriate? Is it healthy? Is it going to make you friends? Is it going to make you enemies? Whatever. So Cancer, do consider that. Leo. Now, yesterday I promised you that there was going to be a change, and the change has now arrived. The Sun is moving into Aquarius. I think this is a good thing. Now, I mean, the Sun in Aquarius, okay, it's not particularly strong. In fact, the Sun in Aquarius is in its detriment. But that needn't be a problem, provided you can use this energy correctly. So, if you're typical of your star sign, if you're a typical Leo, then you're very focused on yourself. You are who you are. You're proud of who you are, and you feel you have a definite sense of identity. But when Pluto goes into Aquarius, you're challenged. The challenge is maybe you're not as important as you thought you were. Maybe you're not noticed as much as you thought you were. Maybe you're just another person. Of course, you're not just another person. You are special. But I think you need to sort of let go of any residual arrogance you might have. Aquarius doesn't appreciate arrogance, not really. Um, you mustn't always expect people to listen to you, to sort of drop everything and do what you want. It's not going to happen anymore with uh, with what's going on here. I mean, the sun, your ruler, moving into Aquarius, moving into your seventh house, and when the moon it moves into your seventh house. That means like in the opposite house, opposite sign from Leo. So this is a time now when you do have to consider other people. Other people do matter, and other people should not be underestimated. Uh, yes, the sun moves into Aquarius Saturday, then Sunday, Pluto moves into Aquarius. So we have this Sun-Pluto conjunction. Okay, the conjunction itself is in Capricorn, but very soon, by Sunday, both planets, Sun and Pluto, are in Aquarius. And so, relationships do have to be managed. And you must not underestimate people's emotions and their capacity to get obsessed and their capacity to just not let go. So, you know, don't get involved in a relationship and don't make promises unless you are prepared to see through the consequences. I think that's very important, something very important to realize. But I think you can help yourself by listening and watching. You don't have to be the center of attention. You can just watch from the sidelines. And by watching from the sidelines, you'll start to have a good understanding of what motivates people, what makes them tick. And then that would put you in a position of put you in a position of power. But overall, these sign changes, Sun and Pluto moving into Aquarius, does put the emphasis on relationships. You can't just be thinking about yourself, because even if you're not in a relationship, circumstances outside you, in the outer world, they are having an impact on you. You can't get away from that. So you need to be understanding of that, and you need to be properly prepared. Virgo. I know that weekends are supposed to be a time of rest, relaxation, but I don't think, Virgo, you're going to be completely in the mood for just relaxing and enjoying yourself. You're going to take the view that there are things that need to be done. Maybe in terms of career or business or something like that. And that's fine. Work on it. But don't expect to get immediate results. It really may take a lot of time before things really start moving in your direction. And in fact, you may find in the first instance that your attempts to make things happen actually hit a bit of a roadblock. Someone is just holding you back. It seems to be one particular person just doesn't want you to move, or maybe they want your attention, or maybe they're just coming up with all sorts of reasons why you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. You have to decide how best to move forward. You might take the view that it's best to listen to what the other person is saying. Maybe they're right. Maybe they've got a point. Maybe you shouldn't be so obsessed about making things happen this weekend. Maybe you should wait till Monday. But listen to what you're being told, and then make up your mind. Are you going to resist? Are you going to dig your heels in, or are you going to compromise? So that's certainly something that you do have to think about this weekend, though it's probably more of a problem for on Saturday, especially if you're in the Americas. by Sunday, some of the restrictions you've been feeling are going to sort of start to break up, and you'll be able to move on with your ambitions. But still, you don't need to expect immediate results. This is more of a sort of a long-term thing. So don't be too impatient. Libra. It's a day, or indeed, sorry, it's a weekend, isn't it? A whole weekend, when I think that you are going to value your freedom. You are certainly not going to want to be tied to any person or place. Even if that's the way it is, even if you are staying in one place all weekend, you're still not going to want to feel tied to that place. You're always going to want to have the choice to escape. So I think you need to respect that. And you need to make sure that other people respect that. You need your freedom. It's important. And if there's no way to escape, you're not going to be good company, and you're going to get anxious and perhaps annoyed, and you might take the view that other people are more trouble than they're worth. No, having that freedom, having that ability to just say, no, I don't want to be bothered with it, I just want to do my own thing. Having that ability to do that, even if you don't exercise that ability, is going to be really important for your peace of mind. And I should also say that there's perhaps less emphasis now on your domestic life, your home and your domestic life. Reason being is that the sun had been moving in Capricorn since the solstice, and the sun is finally moving out of Capricorn into Aquarius, followed by Pluto. I mean, Pluto's been in Capricorn on and off for ages, so now you've got Sun and Pluto moving into Aquarius, and Aquarius is, of course, an air sign, and you're an air sign, and this is perhaps going to be an opportunity to make things happen in a big way, and to really exercise your creativity. It's almost an obsessive creativity. You kind of feel there's something you need to do. You want to do it, and you're not going to let anyone stop you. And through your creative endeavors, you can create a genuine transformation. And so, you really need to try to make the most of this opportunity. And it's a transformation of outlook, it's a transformation of opportunity, and it's something you can really put into practice. So consider how this transformation might be working out, because things are changing, and I think that you are now increasingly in the spotlight, and through your creativity, and through a bold exercise of your creativity, you can indeed create genuine change. Scorpio, you are perhaps less focused this weekend on other people. There has been this big emphasis in Scorpio's lives about dealing with other people. There's certainly been people to deal with, but I think that emphasis is starting to change, and I think you're now more aware of the impact that other people can have, and perhaps perhaps you take the view that you don't want to get too close to any one person. You've tried it, you've experienced it, but was it really worth it? And yes, you might have felt that your freedom of action was in some respects being encroached upon. And what's needed now is some serious thought. So Scorpios need to get down to serious thinking and actually some serious feeling. You are a sensitive sign, Scorpio. You've got powerful feelings. You intrinsically know what's going on. And now is a time when you can really start to understand what's going on. But when you are picking up what's going on around you, it's important you use the right strategy. You can't just use your feelings. Just say, oh, my feelings are supreme. My feelings are always right. No, you have to also look at the facts, objective facts, facts that no one disagrees about. So look at the facts of the matter and think about it and feel about it. Feel it as well, but also think about it. And in that way, by combining facts and emotion, they will support each other, and you'll be able to reach conclusions which are going to be almost certainly accurate. I mean, not 100% accurate. I can't be sure. I can't guarantee that you're going to accurately assess what's going on around you. But I think you will if you can just balance thinking and feeling, using both. You shouldn't see thinking and feeling as being opposite each other, thinking that the brain is at war with the heart. No, they can work together, and you can certainly come to the right conclusions. Now, I should briefly mention Pluto. Pluto has changed sign, or is changing sign. Sunday, it's going to be in Aquarius. And I think that many Scorpios, with the Sun and Pluto moving into Aquarius, are going to be perhaps more focused than usual on their home environment. It's suddenly going to become really important to you. And, you'll be considering your home, and you'll be thinking, what role is your home playing in your life? Is it a useful role? Is it undermining you? And maybe you actually might reach the conclusion that there needs to be a domestic transformation. Now, that could be in terms of relationships with your family. It may actually be, in some cases, you may decide you want to move house, or wherever whether you're renting or owning or whatever, you may just feel that your current situation, your current domestic situation just isn't quite right, and a transformation is required. A transformation that may actually be quite surprising, but don't be in a hurry. Pluto is just going into Aquarius. In fact, later in the year, it does leave Aquarius, it does go back into Capricorn for a bit. But by the end of Scorpio season, end of November next year, this year, November the 19th, 2024, I think that's the right date. That's when Scorpio finally goes into Aquarius for the last time. Because what's happening now is that, yes, Sunday, Pluto goes into Aquarius, but later in the year it leaves Aquarius goes back into Capricorn. But then finally, November the 19th, it finally returns to Aquarius, and that's it. And that may be the time when you feel that now's that it's a time for really big changes at home, maybe even moving house, something like that. But I don't think there's any hurry there. Sagittarius. No Sagittarian is an island. You know that. You understand the importance of your social environment. You know that just on your own there are limits to what you can achieve. And this weekend, with the moon moving into Gemini, your opposite sign, I think you're going to be very aware of partners, friends, or people you have to deal with on a one-to-one basis. You'll be very aware of their influence. Now, in the first instance, particularly Saturday, your efforts in terms of other people and trying to cultivate relationships with them may not come to much. There may just be a block. Someone's just not being cooperative, being unhelpful, and so forth. And it may not actually be until Sunday that you get to really start to see the advantages of what's going on. And by Sunday, I think you and someone else can start to develop a powerful rapport. I won't say it's necessarily a new relationship, but you should be thinking about. You should really be thinking about relationships with Moon and Gemini. How can they be developed? What might be holding them back, and how can whatever is holding them back, how can that be resolved? What is the best way of resolving the situation? And I should also point out that Jupiter's your ruling planet, and Jupiter's aspecting the Mercury-Saturn midpoint. Now, there are a number of ways of looking at Jupiter hitting the Mercury-Saturn midpoint. Now, one way, you could say, well, Mercury-Saturn is serious words. So you've got something serious to say to people, serious to say to the world. But through those serious words, because Jupiter's on the Mercury-Saturn midpoint, you can really make your presence felt, and it's going to be much easier for you to express yourself, and you'll be giving yourself freedom by using serious words, because by using serious words, people understand that you're a serious player. Another way of looking at Jupiter on the Mercury-Saturn midpoint is about farewells. This weekend there may be a few farewells to be made. Mercury-Saturn, Mercury is about having a contact with someone, communication with someone, but Saturn is about kind of breaking off that contact. And you throw Jupiter in and you're thinking, well, maybe you're quite glad to say goodbye to someone. So maybe there's someone who's just quite irritating. You don't really like them that much. And perhaps you'll finally realize that they are leaving your life, and that might be a big relief. So yeah, do consider that. Do consider that possibility. And Sagittarius, one other thing, should remind you that Venus is now at 27-21 Sagittarius. Venus is very close to leaving your star sign. Now, I've just suggested that Jupiter on the Mercury-Saturn midpoint might be about saying goodbye. Venus leaving your star sign doesn't leave your star sign this weekend. When does it leave your star sign? Sorry, let me just check. Venus goes. Okay, that's not until the 23rd. That seems to be on Monday, but Venus leaves your star sign. So Venus leaving your star sign does give an idea that someone's leaving. Plus, Jupiter on a Mercury-Saturn midpoint is an idea that someone is leaving. So prepare for that. It's not a bad thing that they're leaving. It's just the way it is. And as I've said, it may be a sense of relief. So do prepare for that. Finally, I should sort of mention the fact that Pluto is entering your you're, as in the jargon, in your solar third house. From Sagittarius's perspective, Aquarius is the third house on from Sagittarius, because you've got Sagittarius, then Capricorn, and then Aquarius, third house. Um, so this might mean changes in the way you get to places. How do you get to places? How do you move around? It may be if you've been used to moving from place to place by car, that you start using a bus, or vice versa. Keep using a bus, start using a car, or there's a change in mode of transport. All these modes of short distance transport, whether it's bicycle, car, bus, depends on where, maybe even horse, something like that. A change in the way you get to places, or maybe a change in route. That's also another possibility. Getting somewhere, moving somewhere in a different way. So that is one possibility of Pluto moving into a third house. In astrology, the third house rules neighbours. So there might be look at your neighbours. How do you get on with your neighbours? That's perhaps something you need to think about this weekend. Do you talk to your neighbours? Maybe there's going to be some issue with your neighbours. That may be good. Maybe makes it, new friends from across the fence. Maybe there could be some issue with your neighbours that could cause a bit of an argument. So look out for that. Look out for changes in the neighbour. Maybe one of your neighbours is leaving, moving house, so you've got to deal with a new set of neighbours, something like that. You may see the first beginnings over the next month, but if you're living in a house for a long period, you're planning on staying in this house for years, then sure, over the next year you may see some changes in your immediate neighbours, and indeed perhaps in your whole neighbourhood. Okay, let's now move on to Capricorn. You are perhaps in the mood for making sure that everything is correct. I don't think you'll be in the mood for looking at. You won't be in the mood for mistakes. You won't want to make mistakes. You yourself will be very careful. You won't want to make mistakes. And at the same time, you're going to be very aware of other people's mistakes. You'll just notice straight away. And you will notice if things get misplaced. So if, I don't know, an object gets picked up and it gets put down, you might well notice that it's in the wrong place. I don't know if you've seen that film Misery. Maybe the penguin, isn't that right? Something's. How does that work? Someone picking up that penguin and putting it down, and it's facing in the wrong direction. You notice that kind of stuff straight away. Don't be too obsessive, but you're going to want to make sure that everything is in the right place. And if people put things in the wrong place, you'll know straight away. The question is then, how do you respond to the situation? I would suggest that you don't be too crazy about it. And at the same time, I think this weekend you actually will be quite a powerful communicator. You have a clear sense of what you want. Remember Saturn your ruling planet. It's aspecting the Sun-Mercury midpoint. Sun and Mercury is together is about how you articulate who you are, your view of the world, what you want, your identity. That's not a problem for you. You can communicate that very well. And I think that the people close to you, partners and whatever, they're going to be able to communicate very well as well. Because in the Capricorn chart, The opposite sign to Capricorn is Cancer. And of course, the moon, the ruler of Cancer is the moon, and the moon is in Gemini, and Gemini is a sign relating to communication. So partners are going to have a lot to say for themselves. Yet, on Saturday, you do have to be aware that the moon is making a 90-degree aspect to a 90-degree aspect to Saturn, which is your ruler. So Saturn is you, the moon is the other person. You have the capacity to really close someone down, to really make them feel very small. And I think you have to be aware of that. You don't want to be too unpleasant. Yes, it is true that sometimes you have to cut people down to size. I mean, if they are being unreasonable or obnoxious or whatever, you have to criticize them, but don't criticize them just for the sake of it. Maybe they'll say something you disagree with. Maybe they'll say something that you regard as being flippant or irresponsible, but that's no excuse for getting mad at them. Give people some space. That's really important this weekend. And I wanted to talk about Pluto and the Sun. So this weekend, the Sun and the Pluto are leaving your star sign. I think Pluto leaving your star sign may be something of a relief. For a long time, there's been stuff you've been really obsessed about, and it's just got a bit exhausting. And with Pluto leaving your star sign, that could be a big relief. Okay, there's always something to be obsessed about. In a way, you could say the sign that Pluto is in tells us where we're obsessed, the area of life that we're obsessed. And I suppose you could say, well, with Pluto going into Aquarius, you're going to be sort of less obsessed about central issues to do with you yourself. And perhaps you're going to be obsessed about more peripheral issues. For example, money, how money is spent, making sure there's no over expenditure, things like that. So that might be something to consider. Aquarius. Well, Aquarius. The Aquarius season is starting. And it's not even a usual Aquarius season. It's a special Aquarius season because this weekend it's not just that the Sun moves into your star sign; it's that Pluto moves into your star sign as well. So over the next month, you're going to have a lot of power at your disposal. The Sun is in your star sign. This is your time to do what you need to do. This is a time when it's a time when you can show the world how inventive you can be, and your Aquarian detachment is going to be an advantage because you are detached, you don't follow the crowd, and you will start to see the advantage of not following the crowd. The crowd, those are the lemmings jumping off a cliff, not you. You can stay back from a crowd and not commit yourself to such disastrous activities. Yet Pluto is moving into your star sign. Okay, this is part of a longer term trend. Pluto does actually leave your star sign. It comes into Aquarius on Sunday, but then it leaves Aquarius sort of later in the year for a couple of months. Then November the 19th, right at the end of the year, Pluto returns to Aquarius, and then it stays there for ages, years and years and years. So with Pluto going into Aquarius, what's it about? It's a time when you need to perhaps completely reconsider who you are and what you're on the planet for. It's about personal transformation. I know that sounds a cliche, personal transformation, but it does happen. And it is difficult to happen. It's very difficult to change the personality. It's very difficult to change ourselves. Really difficult. Doesn't matter how much therapy we go into. It's tough changing ourselves. But with Sun and Pluto, and particularly Pluto going into Aquarius, the transformation is definitely possible, and it's through that transformation that we can really start to make the most of our potential. And it's tough because Aquarius is a fixed sign. You don't like to change. You might say you do. You might say you're open-minded, you appreciate flexibility and change, but not really. You don't like to change. But it's a big challenge, and I'm it's not going to be easy. But in the first instance, as the sun goes into Aquarius, start thinking about what kind of changes are necessary for you to achieve your full potential. I think fundamentally you know what's required, but you don't really want to admit it. But anyway, that's something you can think about over the weekend. Pisces. Well, the moon is changing sign. It's moving into Gemini. In the Pisces chart, moon in Gemini is quite low profile. I don't think this weekend you're going to particularly be in the mood for doing anything. You're just going to want to sort of hang out in your own space, and you just want to be yourself. And I think that once you are in your own space, you're going to very quickly start to set up boundaries for yourself. You're going to say, yeah, you need boundaries. And of course, Pisceans do need boundaries. That's always important for Pisces because, Pisces, relates to the sea and the tides, and sometimes it all gets too much. You move from this way, that way, all over the place, and there's no containment, and sometimes you do need to actually create boundaries for yourself, so psychic boundaries even. Your aura getting overwhelmed by other people's emotions, for example. So that's how best to make yourself feel comfortable and secure. But having said that, there seems to be an opportunity that has been hanging around for a long time, for a few weeks, and this opportunity may be about to close. The window of opportunity is about to close. I don't know what this is about necessarily. It's a weekend. Usually weekends might be a bit difficult to sort things out, for example, in a business or career sense. It may be that there is a career or a business opportunity or someone you need to talk to about career or business, something like that. And, you've got one last chance. And if you don't talk to this person very soon, it could be over. So think about that. Is there something you've forgotten? Just think about it. Is there something you've forgotten to do in a material sense? Something, you've forgotten. Now think about it, and because it's not too late, even though it is the weekend, it's not quite too late. So Pisces, consider what that might be. I should also point out, in terms of your relations with your family, I think your family are going to be important this weekend, but your family, are they going to be a help, or are they going to be a hindrance, or a bit of both? Um, Family members could hold you up. They could waste a lot of your time. Um, but if you're clever, you can have sort of constructive negotiations with your family. Really start to discuss things in a serious way, and that's probably the best way forward. And I want to finish just by briefly talking about Pluto, the Sun and Pluto, because this weekend the Sun and Pluto do go into Aquarius. And so what does that mean for you? I think it means that there is going to be an increasing emphasis on your unconscious. The Piscean unconscious is, of course, completely massive. It's that dream world. It's the place you only visit when you're asleep or half asleep or in some trance, or when you're thinking about something else. And you get impressions. And these impressions are going to be important, but you might not take them seriously in the first instance. So perhaps we're talking also about the past and memories. And it's difficult to make sense of it. But perhaps what's going on, Pisces, is that, with Pluto going into Aquarius, is that, Pisces, you're quite a sensitive person. You're well aware of what's going on around you. But you can't always verbalize it. That's okay, but it's just an emotional impression. And with Pluto going into Aquarius, Aquarius is an air sign. Often connected with verbalization. At a sort of unconscious level, you're going to start to understand the way it's all going, the way everything is going, particularly society. You start to have a feel for it. You may not always be able to verbalize it, but you know where it's all going. But if you work on it, you perhaps can verbalize it. You can verbalize the future by delving into your unconscious. It's all there. But you don't be in a hurry. It'll take time to work out. But I think that's something that you can use. And it's not anything to be afraid of. Because you have a natural understanding of things which pass other people by, and then you have to decide, once you know what's going to happen next, and I'm talking perhaps in a longer term sense, years ahead, once you know what's going on, what are you going to do about it? Is it about helping yourself? Is it about helping other people? Is it about helping society? Or is it something you just want to keep to yourself? I don't know. It's up to you. So having looked at the 12 signs, I'm now going to turn to the I Ching for the weekend. And so I asked the question, what is this weekend going to be like for those watching the particular segment of this video relating to the I Ching? Because, of course, some people, I think most people don't watch the whole video. I think very few people actually watch the whole video. I don't say very few, but I suppose a lot of people don't watch the whole thing. But for those who are watching the segment on the I Ching, what's the weekend going to be like? So I threw the coins, and the first hexagram I got was this. Hexagram 23, splitting apart. You can see it, can't you? If you look at that hexagram, it kind of doesn't look too stable, does it? I mean, it's got that beam at the top, but it looks as if the whole thing could just fall over. And so the idea of splitting apart is the concept of evil spreading up the system, spreading through, just going up, 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 and then the whole thing just collapsing. I know that's kind of melodramatic, but it seems that something is breaking up. Now, do remember, this is an I Ching reading for the weekend. It's not for your whole life or anything. So let's not over dramatize the thing. But yeah, something is breaking up here. Something is just not working. I don't know whether it's about evil. If it's something social or to do with another person, a relationship, yeah, well, there might be a sense of unpleasantness, and it's just getting everywhere. And we've actually got 4 lines moving. We've got the bottom line moving, second line from the bottom moving, the 4th line moving, and the 5th line moving. Hence this idea of spreading disintegration, moving up, moving up the hexagram. But the 5th line does move, and the 5th line in the I Ching is usually quite a fortunate line, at least more fortunate than the others, and that is true here. When we get to the 5th line, we reach a point where the sort of evil around us, the destruction has just reached its absolute peak, and it just cannot get any worse, and it starts to expend itself. And even if we find ourselves in an unfortunate position, it's not as bad as it seems. Greg Winkup, in his translation of I Ching, he talks about the 5th line as being a prisoner, but the person holding us prisoner is fairly benign, so it's not so bad as it looks. But I think there comes a point where it just can't get any worse, and there's also a possibility that if we're in a social situation of splitting apart, and we may find that the people around us are just being really awful, and it just doesn't seem to be getting any better, there comes a point where someone changes their mind, where someone who appeared to be up to no good, who was behaving badly, somehow changes. The fundamental goodness in them eventually makes themselves felt. So perhaps that's something we can do. Perhaps we can, we can help people see the truth. And I don't think we do that by just through criticism, telling people how awful they are. Just keep showing them what is good. Perhaps through personal example. And in the end, there's a change of heart, and I think that that change of heart is crucial, and that allows this disintegration to just burn itself out, and we can then move to a different hexagram. And so the hexagram that this moves to is hexagram number 10, which is treading. In splitting apart, we've been in a very difficult situation. And when we move to treading, the situation is still dangerous, because treading is talking about treading potentially on a tiger's tail. And a tiger might bite us, although it says even if a tiger does bite us, it's not the end of the world. Amazing as that might sound. But at this stage, by treading carefully, by watching where we put our feet at every step, we can sort of get round this obstacle. So all of the the difficulties which we perhaps started the day with, or sorry, started the weekend with. And treading probably relates more to Sunday than to Saturday. I would have said that splitting apart, that's more about Saturday. This is 10, treading is more about Sunday. So we can gingerly walk around the problem. We know there's a problem because, we've seen the damage that can be caused by splitting apart, and we can resolve the problem. But we'd have to be very careful. We have to be careful where we walk. But if we're careful, by the end of the weekend, the problem, the issue, whatever we've had to deal with, I think we will have sorted it out. Okay. So I'm now going to turn back to the astrology, and I want to look at the horoscope of Princess Catherine, obviously the British princess, Prince William's wife, and so she's in hospital. I mean, people go into hospital all the time. So, as it's the news, I thought, well, yeah, what's going on? Medical astrology is not really my thing. So I'm not going to sort of really attempt any diagnoses or anything like that. Okay, so let's see. So here's her chart. So she just had her birthday, January the 9th. So what in her chart might make her vulnerable? Just in general, let's not think about predictions. Just what makes her vulnerable? Well, Catherine was born on a full moon. You can see that she has her moon in Cancer, 1842 Cancer, and the moon at 1912 Capricorn. So in fact, as the North Node is there, she was born just after a lunar eclipse, I think. Just before a lunar eclipse. So the moon is just a full moon. If you're born at a full moon, this can be difficult because you've got to balance. The moon in Cancer, opposition to Sun in Capricorn. They're very different energies. Moon in Cancer is about sort of being emotional, feeling, sort of all the warmth, and but then there's Sun in Capricorn has to be really practical and make sure everything's in order. So you can perhaps imagine how that must be for Catherine in the position she's in. I believe she has a great sense of her role. She strikes me, I mean, not that I know anything about the royal family, but she strikes me as being very grounded. She understands her role. She understands her responsibility. She's accepted her position in the royal family, although she's an outsider. And that's the Capricorn. But then there's the real her. Who is she? And there's all this dignity and everything. But the moon in Cancer is a bit under pressure there, isn't it? And particularly when you look at this chart and you see that it's actually a T-square, you can see that she's got Saturn square the moon, Saturn square the sun. Poor moon. Moon is in trouble. Now, in terms of astrology, the sign Cancer can actually be related to the stomach, and I believe it's abdominal surgery. Now, I must make one thing absolutely clear. The sign Cancer has nothing to do with the disease cancer. No connection. So but there is a connection with the abdomen and the stomach. So there's a possibility there that we see some reason why that might be a vulnerability there. Remember, I'm not talking about anything predictive at the moment. I'm just looking at her chart as a static entity. Then she's got Saturn. So that moon is under a lot of is stressed out in quite a considerable way. And then look at Uranus. Uranus is at 3 degrees 8 Sagittarius. So that Uranus is actually fairly close to an 135-degree aspect with her moon. In fact, if you remember, a few days ago, I looked at David Bowie's horoscope, and David Bowie had moon, if I remember rightly, moon semi-square, 45 degrees from Uranus. And I was saying how, that really did describe David Bowie. But what about her? Moon opposition Uranus. I think that here is someone who perhaps at some level wants to rebel, wants to be herself, and I think it's tough. There's a lot she must have had to have given up to be part of a royal family. So I'm kind of suggesting here that if you take the view that disease has perhaps a psychological dimension, not at a very root thing. So she has been in the royal family for what? I don't know. When did she marry him? I can't remember. I don't know. A long time ago. Don't know, when did they get married? Was it 2012, something like that? Over 10 years, 12 years ago or something like that. So she's been involved with William since a long time before that. And it may be that the need to present this public front and to be dignified and to be a princess, maybe there's just a stress to it. Which has perhaps caused the problem she's got, and I don't know. We don't know. I don't know what the problem is. So maybe there's a psychological dimension to it. If there is, I think the chart would definitely show that. So that's the static chart, and I am just interested in the fact that her moon is under such enormous pressure in her natal chart. And we're dealing with someone who comes over as, she doesn't do crazy stuff. She's not a flake. She's gone for this role completely. She does, as I understand it, people who are into the royal family think she's wonderful, doing a good job and all that kind of stuff. But underneath, there's just an enormous, she must have had to have given up a lot. And so maybe part of that is a part of that pressure, and I understand she's had quite a difficult year as well, I've been told. One of the commenters on my channel was saying that she'd been sort of, I haven't been following a royal family, that she's been a victim of a certain amount of bullying. I'm not quite sure where from, maybe from the public, or I don't know. I don't know. And she's had all the Meghan issues and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of stress. And she may have wanted to do things which she couldn't do because of her position. So that might be part of it. Then we have to consider, why now? What has caused the problem? What is it about? So one way of looking at this would be to maybe look at her solar return, just to get an idea about what was going on. Solar return. I'm not saying there's anything particularly special about her solar return, but this is the positions of planets. What about? She went into hospital on the 16th, so that would have been about a week after her birthday. So these are the positions of her of the planets at the time of her solar return, January the 9th, 2024. What is interesting is that on her birthday, have a look at Saturn. Saturn is at 4 degrees 5 minutes, 4 degrees 5 minutes Pisces. Her Sun is at 19 degrees 12 Capricorn. That means that Saturn was exactly 45 degrees from her Sun. Now, if you've been watching my videos, I put a great store on semi-squares and sesquiquadrates. Her Saturn was hitting her Sun. We also need to remember that there was a new moon 2 days after her birthday, and that new moon was at 20 degrees 44 Capricorn. So that full moon. So we've got the solar return. If you look at her, go back to her chart. A 24. So that new moon, she had a new moon pretty much on her birthday, but that new moon was on her Sun, quite close to her Sun, was quite close to the opposition of her moon, and it was quite close to the square of her Saturn. And in fact, it would have been that new moon would have been on her Sun-Saturn midpoint, and kind of on her Moon-Saturn midpoint as well. So she had a new moon on her Sun-Saturn midpoint, Moon-Saturn midpoint. So in other words, that new moon was triggering her whole T-square. So you had the new moon plus transiting Saturn was also triggering that T-square, because it was transiting Saturn was semi-square her Sun, and was not so exactly was sesquiquadrate her moon. So from the perspective of sort of new moons, and that's the new moon and the transiting Saturn, we're certainly getting a signature there. That would explain perhaps why she got sick when she got sick. Again, we haven't a clue. At least right now, we haven't got a clue. Now, as far what exactly the problem is, I don't know what time she went into hospital. I think it was on last Tuesday at noon. This is a chart for her going into hospital. Let's just. I'm not saying I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm going to find anything particularly amazing in this chart, but just a reminder about what it all. You see, so the hospital there, you can see Saturn was at 444 Pisces when she went into hospital, semi-square her Sun, sesquiquadrate the Moon. Also, when she went into hospital, Mars was at 8 degrees 53 minutes Capricorn, moving to a square of her natal Mars. So I suppose if you've got Mars so she had Mars transiting her Mars as she went into hospital. So I suppose you could say Mars is a planet of the surgeon. So that would indicate surgery. So I think kind of overall that seems to fit. One other thing I wanted to look at was her solar arc directions. So remember, that's moving her planets 1 degree for every year of life. So she's just had her 42nd birthday, so we'd move everything 42 degrees. So her solar arc directions. These are her solar arc directions. So let's just put that next to her natal chart. So her natal chart is in the middle. Then the solar arc planets are on the outer wheel. What I found really interesting is her solar arc Saturn, i.e. if we've moved Saturn 40 degrees, is at 4 degrees 28 Sagittarius. So that solar arc, and her Sun is at 1912 Capricorn. So her solar arc directed Saturn was semi-square her natal Sun. So she had transiting Sun semi-square her Sun, and she had solar arc Sun semi-square her Sun. So together, I think you've got so many signatures at something. You've got so many signatures there that there was a problem coming up at the beginning of the year. Now, I almost feel sort of regret that I didn't really look at her chart more closely. I think that if she had been consulting an astrologer, at least an astrologer who was using this kind of approach, she would have been warned. This was certainly a difficult time for her. Because we were seeing this theme, the Sun-Saturn theme, and this, and how that full moon was being really hit. So that's Kate. Sorry, Catherine. That's Catherine, Princess of Wales. That's her chart. And what about England? I did mention England's chart, I think last weekend, and I mentioned the fact, let's look at England's horoscope. I mentioned the fact that Pluto was crossing England's Venus this week. And I can't remember precisely what I said. I said something like, it's about women. It's something about women in England. I said something, but I didn't link it with Catherine. But now we know what's happened. I don't know. That seems pretty clear to me. Venus is a relatively young woman. She's 42, and important to the country. This is a chart of England for 1066. December the 25th, 1066, the coronation of William I. And so in a way, this chart represents the continuity of Britain as a state, with particular emphasis on the royal family. Okay, I understand that we had the Commonwealth in the middle of the 17th century, but by and large, I believe this is an important chart. And that Venus represents women in the country, and I think in this case, it represents Catherine, not least because Venus is in Capricorn, and of course Catherine is a Capricorn, so that kind of fits. So Pluto conjunct Venus, it shows that the country is concerned about this very high-profile woman who is married to the heir to the throne. So I thought that fitted quite nicely. I did want to consider what impact Catherine's stay in hospital might be having on her husband. I'm not going to spend long on this. So here is Prince William's chart, and so we will. I'm just going to look at the transits. I'm not going to look at solar arc directions. So if you look at his chart now, if you can see that where's okay. There's Mars. Now, I mentioned that Mars was square Catherine's chart when she went into hospital. Likewise, Mars is square William's chart. So, that's Mars is square William's Mars. So Catherine had Mars square Mars in her chart, transiting Mars, hitting her Mars. And likewise, William had transiting Mars, hitting his Mars. And that reminds us of the fact that, you see, Catherine's Mars is at 1028 Libra. William's Mars is at, Catherine and William have Mars conjunct Mars in their, they both have Mars at 910 Libra. And so Mars is hitting both of their Marses at the same time on the day they went to hospital. So you can see, you can obviously see the agitation there. It's also worth noting that there's that moon. I would have said that moon would be in his chart. He's got moon in Cancer in the 7th house. I would have said that moon possibly represents Kate. Sorry, Catherine. That moon probably represents Catherine, because we can find the woman in the chart. Okay, it might be Venus, but we'll take it. The moon is a female planet, and so I don't know precisely what time she went into hospital, but certainly at noon the moon was at 4 degrees Aries, so the moon was square. The moon was square his natal moon, and that might indicate some issues with his wife. And then Mars was at 8:53 Capricorn. Mercury was at 2:41 Capricorn. So Mercury and Mars were sort of opposition. The moon. I mean, the Mars is 4 degrees off the moon, but I'm assuming that Catherine was. I assume she was sick for some time before she went into hospital, and so that Mars opposition to the moon might be how it was working out. And finally, I want to look at Prince George's chart. And there's one thing I do want to. Did see in Prince George's chart. As I've said on several occasions, I do not believe that Prince George is a suitable material to be King of England. I feel really comfortable about that. I'm assuming that at some stage the family will realise this, and that they'll find that one of his, I don't know, his sister or his brother, I don't know. I mean, But I do feel that, and reason being that chart, I don't like the fact it has absolutely no fire or air in it. Okay, I know it's got Uranus in Aries, but it's got it's too negative. Plus the fact he was born like his mother. Prince George was born on a full moon. Now, maybe his mother can deal with the full moon, but is he going to be able to deal with his full moon? I'm just not convinced. There's his sun 2959 Cancer. There's his moon 2817 Capricorn. My feeling with Prince George is he's just too sensitive. Maybe we don't see this yet, but I think. I don't know. Between now and his adulthood, I think it will become, his sensitivity will become clear, and I just don't think he's going to want to be king. And I think I don't know. That's my feeling. I may be wrong, although I'm fairly confident about it. I just really feel that it's not the right thing. But given his full moon. What's Pluto doing? Pluto is about to go into Aquarius. So as his mother was in hospital, he had Pluto crossing over his sun. He had Pluto right on his full moon. And of course, today this weekend, there's a Sun-Pluto conjunction in the last degree of Capricorn, which is right on his sun. So I think I would guess that for Prince George, this must be quite difficult for him, with his mother going into hospital and having Pluto on his full moon. I kind of feel a bit bad looking at his chart, but on the other hand, he's a member of a royal family. His chart is available. One of the penalties one of the problems about being a member of a royal family, you get not a lot of privilege, but at the same time, you get a lot of public attention. People are thinking, well, Prince George, he's going to be king. He's supposed to be king. He's supposed to be going to be king one day. So maybe these concerns are legitimate, but I would have guessed that it must be quite difficult for him. I mean, okay, I know for any child, having one's mother going into hospital would be difficult, but in this case, with Pluto right on his sun, we can see perhaps that it might, that we can get some idea about the impact it might be having on him. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about Catherine, Princess of Wales. I hope you found that of some use. I hope I didn't go on for too long. If you did find the video useful, I'd be grateful if you liked it. If you're not subscribed and you found it useful, I'd be grateful if you were to feel free to subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, there is a link in the description. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you again very soon.